Local Bostonians might remember when their biggest Boston complaint was the weather and the other drivers. But now they'd take 100 nor'easters over one more rent increase, one more bidding war, one more reminder that this city wants your money, but not you. Indeed, we're watching Boston eat itself alive, one luxury condo at a time. Your favorite dive bar is now a boutique fitness studio that charges $40 to sweat. And that family who ran the corner store for 3 generations is gone. In today's episode of Whose Money It, we're diving into the numbers that explain why everyone you know is either leaving, thinking about leaving, or too broke from staying to leave. Because if you live here, work here, or used to dream about living here, Boston's betrayal is your betrayal too. Boston has always prided itself on being the city of champions, but these days it's winning a contest nobody wants to enter. $3,311. That's what the average Bostonian shells out monthly just to rent a place to sleep. Let the absurdity of that number wash over you like a nor'easter in January. This represents a 7.33% jump from 2 years ago, placing Boston's rental costs 112% higher than the national average. 112%. So while your cousin in Cleveland pays $1,500 for a decent apartment, you're forking over more than double for the privilege of living near Fenway. For those brave souls still chasing the home ownership dream? Good luck. The median home price in Greater Boston has crashed through the $1 million barrier like the Kool-Aid man through a wall. Condominiums, once the starter home of choice for young professionals, now average between $720,000 and $850,000. That's not a typo. That's reality in 2025 Boston. To afford an average rental without becoming a financial contortionist, households need to earn approximately $127,000 annually. This assumes rent doesn't consume more than 1/3 of pre-tax income, which is what financial advisors recommend when they're not laughing at Boston's housing market. This threshold effectively prices out teachers, firefighters, nurses, the people who actually keep a city functioning. The fundamental problem? A housing shortage so severe it makes finding a parking spot in the North End look like child's play. Greater Boston faces a shortage of approximately 38,000 units right now. Within the next decade, that gap could balloon to 90,000 units if we keep building at this snail's pace. Here's where the math gets truly depressing. Between 2010 and 2020, the Boston metro area added 275,000 new jobs. Fantastic, right? Economic growth, prosperity. Except during that same period, we built only 108,000 new homes. That 3% gap created a structural deficit that haunts every apartment search, every bidding war, every young family forced to move to New Hampshire. Vacancy rates have plummeted to their lowest levels in over a decade, hovering around a microscopic 2 to 3%. Housing experts call this a vice-tight market. Renters call it hell. Since 1990, home construction in Massachusetts has limped along below 1980s levels. Many suburbs remain zoned exclusively for single-family homes, as if it's still 1955 and everyone has 2.5 kids and a golden retriever. Half of Greater Boston renters and a quarter of homeowners pay more than 30% of their income on housing. For Black, Latino, and Asian Pacific Islander households, that number jumps to 58%. Between January 2023 and 2024, homelessness exploded by 67%. Youth homelessness alone jumped 72%. But hey, at least the Red Sox tickets are still affordable. Oh wait, never mind. Living in Boston costs 45 to 46% more than the national average, turning every trip to Star Market into an exercise in financial trauma. A family of 4 burns through $5,325.70 monthly just on basic expenses. That's before rent, before the car payment, before little Timmy needs braces. Single people? You're looking at $1,451.70 monthly for the basics. In a city where a beer costs $12 and they charge for ketchup packets, this surprises exactly nobody. Then Eversource enters the chat. The utility giant jacked up basic supply rates by 12% in August 2025 because apparently they hadn't made enough profit-crushing souls. Electricity now costs 14.9 cents per kilowatt hour, adding another $10 monthly to bills that already induce heart palpitations. Total utility bills for renters range from $220 to $280 monthly. Winter hasn't even shown its frozen face yet. When those heating bills hit, Bostonians will fondly remember the days when they only paid $200 for utilities. Healthcare costs have gone completely bonkers. Massachusetts dropped $78.1 billion on healthcare in 2023. An 8.6% per capita increase that left both inflation and wage growth eating dust. The average Bay Stater now pays over $10,000 annually just to stay healthy. $10,000. Families with small employer plans face average deductibles exceeding $5,000. That's $5,000 out of pocket before insurance bothers to help. Federal subsidies keeping insurance somewhat affordable? They're set to expire in 2026. When that happens, hold on to your wallets. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepares you for the financial colonoscopy of raising a child in Boston. Boston claims the crown as America's most expensive city to raise a kid in 2025. Each child costs $39,221 annually, per child, per year. Childcare alone devours $23,800, or 60.7% of the total cost. Infant care? Brace yourself. You're looking at $1,700 to $2,800 monthly. Boston University's Children's Center charges $2,981 monthly for infants. That's $35,772 annually, more than many people's salaries. 5 years of childcare averages $131,259. You could buy a house in most of America for that. In Boston, it barely covers daycare. Massachusetts families in metro areas spend 46% of household income on childcare. Hispanic and Latino families? They're spending 39% of income just on childcare. 71% of children under 2 lack access to any formal early education slots. The message is clear. Don't have kids in Boston unless you've got Goldman Sachs money. Boston's public transportation system has become a cruel joke told at commuters' expense. The MBTA, lovingly known as the T, promised 2024 would be the year of transformation. The track improvement program would eliminate slow zones. Service would improve, commuters would rejoice. Instead, riders got continuous shutdowns across every line and service, about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Yes, they removed many slow zones, but recovery has been as uneven as a colonial-era cobblestone street. Signal equipment on the red and orange lines dates back 50 years. 50 years. These signals are literally older than email, older than personal computers, old enough to collect Social Security. The T admits roughly 30% of delays stem from these museum pieces masquerading as infrastructure. Manufacturers stopped servicing this analog equipment years ago. They've moved on. Boston hasn't. So riders suffer with technology from the disco era while paying 21st century prices. The upgrade project costs $295 million and requires frequent service outages. Commuters just want to get to work. Instead, they get shuttle buses and apologies. Green Line trains achieved a spectacular 65% success rate in 2024. That means more than 1 in 3 scheduled trips simply didn't happen. The T consistently schedules 5 to 15% more service than it can actually deliver. It's like a restaurant taking reservations for tables that don't exist. Disabled trains, signal failures, power outages, pick your poison. System-wide delays have become so routine that arriving on time feels like winning the lottery. Think driving offers escape? Think again. Boston ranks fourth worst in America for traffic congestion, 12th globally. Drivers waste 79 hours annually sitting in traffic. That's over 3 full days staring at brake lights, listening to sports radio, slowly losing their minds. Each driver loses about $1,414 to congestion. Interstate 93 southbound between the Charles River and Route 3, second busiest traffic corridor in the entire United States. Take that road at 3 in the afternoon, and you'll spend an extra 109 hours annually going nowhere fast. Downtown Boston traffic crawls at 13 miles per hour. A motivated jogger moves faster. Hell, a motivated walker might beat you there. The city added 19,000 more vehicles in just 5 years, a 7% increase, while roads stayed exactly the same size. It's like inviting more people to a party without making the room bigger. By the 50s, climate change will flood 7% of the city during major rain events. 15% of metro homes face severe hurricane risk, threatening $144.9 billion in property. Parking costs $2 to $3.75 per hour, depending on which neighborhood wants to rob you. TD Garden event parking hits $65 flat. All this dysfunction might be tolerable if Boston still offered opportunity, but even that's disappearing faster than affordable apartments. The Mayflower brought people to Massachusetts. These days, the traffic flows the other direction. Every year, tens of thousands more people flee Massachusetts than move in. It's like reverse manifest destiny, except instead of heading west for gold, they're heading anywhere for affordable housing. The escapees share a profile. Predominantly white, middle and high-income earners, college-educated. You know, exactly the people cities usually try to keep. The brain drain hits especially hard among 25 to 44-year-olds, recent graduates, young professionals, people who want kids but can't afford Boston's daycare prices. They're all packing up and heading out. 25% of adults between 20 and 30 expect to leave Greater Boston soon. 1 in 4. These aren't retirees seeking Florida sunshine. These are people in their prime productive years saying, "Screw this, I'm out." Boston's population dropped 3.12% since the 2020 census. We're down to about 654,423 people. Without international immigration propping up the numbers, this city would be hemorrhaging residents faster than the Big Dig hemorrhaged money. Income inequality has reached cartoon villain levels. The top 20% average nearly $400,000 annually. The bottom 20%? Less than $21,000. That's a 19-to-1 ratio that would make Marie Antoinette blush. The top 5% pull in nearly $700,000 annually. 700,000. Meanwhile, someone's grandma in Dorchester tries to survive on Social Security. Middle-income households have shrunk from 53% in 1980 to 41% in 2023. The middle class isn't just squeezed, it's being systematically eliminated. 43% of households now cluster with others of similar income, up from 32% in 1980. Rich neighborhoods get richer, poor neighborhoods get poorer. The melting pot has separated into discrete ingredients. Life expectancy tells the tale best. The gap between Roxbury and Back Bay once stood at 33 years. It's improved to 23 years. 23 years of life expectancy separate neighborhoods in the same city. That's not a statistic, that's an indictment. Downtown Boston looks like a zombie movie set. Over 20% of office space sits vacant. Office attendance remains 30% below pre-pandemic levels, because why commute to a cubicle when you can work from your overpriced apartment? Foot traffic downtown averages 55% below 2019 levels. The financial district feels more like the financial ghost town. Restaurants that survived the pandemic now face the slow strangulation of no customers. The unemployment rate of 3.8% sounds decent until you realize computer job postings hit a 10-year low in December 2023. The tech boom? It's booming somewhere else. Massachusetts takes its pound of flesh through taxes, 5% on income over $8,000, plus another 4% on income over $1 million. Because if you're rich enough to afford Boston, you're rich enough to pay more taxes. Paradise wasn't just lost, it was priced out and moved to North Carolina. Boston achieved something remarkable in 2024. Only 24 homicides, the lowest since 1957. By 2025, we're tracking toward 34. Progress, like everything else in Boston, is temporary. Property and violent crimes ticked up 1%. Aggravated assaults, commercial burglaries, and larcenies are rising like the tide in Boston Harbor. But the real star of the show? Shoplifting, up 30%. 30%. Apparently, when people can't afford necessities, they find other ways to acquire them. Who could have predicted that? The total crime rate hits 26.19 per thousand residents. That means 2.6% of Bostonians will tangle with crime this year. For every 1,000 residents, nearly 7 face violent crime and 20 deal with property crime. Downtown residents report a smorgasbord of urban decay, open drug use, retail theft, and quality-of-life crimes that make walking certain streets feel like running a gauntlet. 92% surveyed say public safety remains a major downtown concern. When 9 out of 10 people are worried about safety, you've got a problem that gentrification can't fix. The homelessness crisis has detonated. Between January 2023 and 2024, homelessness surged 67%. In 1 year, 67%. Youth homelessness alone rocketed up 72%. Kids on the streets. In Boston in 2025. The racial disparities are staggering. Black residents experience homelessness at 17 times the rate of white residents. Latino residents? 5 times the white rate. Poverty doesn't discriminate, but Boston's housing market sure does. This isn't just one crisis. It's 5 or 6 crises wearing a trench coat, pretending to be a functioning city. Housing costs force families to flee. Infrastructure crumbles while politicians make promises. Healthcare bankrupts the middle class. Childcare costs more than college. Income inequality reaches French Revolution levels. Climate change threatens to literally sink the whole enterprise. Boston built its reputation on revolution, on fighting impossible odds, on tea-dumping rebelliousness. But you can't rebel against math. When teachers can't afford to live where they teach, when nurses commute from New Hampshire, when firefighters need second jobs, that's not a city anymore. That's a resort for the wealthy with a working-class theme park attached. Some cities have figured this out. They build housing, they invest in infrastructure, they make hard choices. Boston makes excuses. We sparked a revolution over a tax on tea. Now we accept million-dollar closets and call it progress. Paul Revere would weep. The alternative to action isn't just decline, it's civic suicide, a slow-motion disaster where everything that made Boston special gets priced out, moved out, or simply gives up. We're not just losing our character, we're auctioning it to the highest bidder, one luxury condo at a time. And now, we'd love to see you in the comments. Boston locals, what's the exact moment you knew the city didn't want you anymore? We look forward to hearing from you below, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Whose Money Is It?